Hello, everyone. I'm Graham Elwood. You're watching the Political Vigilante and listening on the iTunes. Positive reviews on the iTunes and likes and subscribes on the YouTube and sharing this on all your social media will help the channel grow. Also, you can go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and become a supporter. You get cool bonus content. You get early access to the podcast, Patreon-only posts, a lot of cool stuff. So one of the things you do, there's a $5 level. It's all filled up right now, but you can submit an article or a topic for me to talk about once a month. And here's one from Patreon supporter Adam Martin. Adam, thank you so much for backing the show. Really appreciate it. It's basically an article that was in Wired.com, and it talks about how Twitter really isn't fun anymore. And what the author, who is Angela Watercutter, this came out September 6th in Wired.com, talks about maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe we should all be paying a little more attention. And talks about, she was on a vacation in Spain, and 6 days into her vacation, all the Twitter feed started talking about, the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it was, it's invasive. And I've talked to some people who are just like, I've unplugged from social media, or I don't go on Facebook much anymore, or whatever. And, this is specific, this article is specifically about Twitter. And it's like, remember when Twitter was fun, when you just 140 characters and you post some silly stuff or make a joke, or you get together with your friends and, you talk about a show or whatever, and then it's become sort of it can become a dark place. That people are using it to do, the Nazis are using it or whatever. Like, everyone's using it to do some dark things, and then there's another thing they talked about, and I'll read this part of the article, which is in the September issue of Wired. My colleague Nick Stockton has a wonderful piece about the new FOMO, fear of missing out, not on your friends' nights at the bar, but on the news. In the piece, psychologist Ethan Cross suggests that the best way for coping with the ever-tumultuous news cycle is to actively engage with it more. To read every post and comment, Cross has a degree and a lot more expertise than I do, so I believe this. But for me, the tendency is to engage far less than ever before, especially in political discussions. Either offer something of value or take a seat. Anything else is dreck. All right. And I think we've talked about this a lot. Some of you have asked me this when we've done the Super Chat Sundays. And I've mentioned that photo, and Jimmy Dore mentioned it too, of one of the rallies. It was like, if someone was holding a sign saying, if Hillary would have won, we'd be at brunch right now. And a lot of people think that's funny, but it's also like, that was part of the problem. People were not paying attention. And, people were at brunch the last 8 to 16 years. And this is why Trump has come into play. And so I got to go through my own journey and experience what I've gone through. I always kind of paid attention, but I was not paying attention enough, as I've mentioned before on the show. And since doing this show, I began on January 2nd, I've been paying more attention. And I actually feel more empowered, similar to what this article is talking about. I feel more involved. I feel more informed. And I'm also not just seeing some Facebook meme or something and going, oh my God, look at this. Someone made a photo with statistics on it. This must be true. Not that I would jump on those all the time or overreact to them, but I'm now like, well, let's get more information. And I start following people like Glenn Greenwald and people like that, and reading Chris Hedges. And I feel like I feel more informed. As I've also talked about, I got to take breaks. That's why I do yoga, I go surfing, I go to the beach, because if I just sit in front of my computer all day and do this and read the news, I'm going to go crazy. So I think balance is key, but I do agree that actually getting more information for me, and maybe the psychologist is correct as well, but I feel it feels less daunting to me. Sometimes I think of all the situations we're in. I'm like, oh my God, the internet, the environment, and it's all coming apart, and I can get down. But then I do see glimmers of hope. I do see people doing good work. and I do see people fighting the good fight, and I you know, I do feel better about it, and it's easy to just sort of tune out, and I'm really tired of the tuning out. The apathy and the tuning out in this country, in America, is a big part of the problem. Now, I understand I'll cut people a certain amount of slack because it is by design. We're designed to be workaholic, to work so much and have 2-3 jobs because we can't afford to pay our bills and healthcare and everything like that. And then the news we're given is bullshit, so we're just supposed to distract. We're just supposed to care about Jay-Z and Beyonce's kids or whatever. And so it is by design, but I will cut people, the masses, slack up to a certain point. And then you got to wake up and you got to get involved somehow. And I understand I'm too busy. People have said to me, I don't have time to go research all these articles. Well, then at least change the half hour where you're getting your news from MSNBC to this and Jimmy Dore and other people like that. You know, go watch some TYT if you don't, you know, and take what you like and leave the rest. If you don't like it, you know, go to Secular Talk, go to Humanist Report, go to Sane Progressive, go to Tim Black, go to all these people who are out there researching and trying to get it right. And at least it'll give you a better sense of what's really going on versus just drinking whatever the corporate media feeds you. So this is an interesting article, and I want to read some more stuff about it. You know, people made jokes like, remember when Twitter was fun? Remember when our biggest problem was Charlie Sheen? The author says, I miss those days, you know. And, you know, oh, it's so serious. It's all so serious. Oh, God, it's just the news. It's too depressing. It's too serious. Well, I think you got to pay attention because we're facing a tipping point. We're on the brink of some stuff, and everybody needs to get involved in one way or another. Now, when I volunteered last Friday for the American Red Cross, this telethon for Hurricane Harvey, my faith in humanity was sort of restored because I was with all these volunteers who were really doing amazing. Everyone wanted to help, and then all the phone calls, people wanted to help, and people were like, God, I wish I could give more. And every person that said that, I go, no, every dollar counts. I've been a disaster volunteer for 16 years. Every dollar counts. $5, $10, everything counts. And so there are people out there trying to help and trying to do good things, and I see a lot of young politicians, young people getting involved, and that's important. Everyone needs to get involved in one way or another. Even if you've got, you know, a spouse and, you know, 3 kids and 2 jobs, you know, and you're like, where's the time? Carve out just a couple hours a week, you know, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and stay a little more involved. And I think I think this article, and I appreciate you know, Adam Martin for bringing this to my attention because it's a good thing to talk about because we're all sort of wrestling with it a little bit. And many of you are coming to YouTube and coming to get alternative media because you're done with the corporate media, and I applaud that. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. It's a, you know, your vote with your dollars as I talk about. So I think I'll read the last paragraph of this article to sort of leave us all on because it makes a decent point. And there's right below it, there's an ad for Al Gore's you know, climate change workshop thing, which I have applied for. It's in October in, I forget where, Philly or DC or something like that, or Atlanta, I can't remember. But if I get to that, I'm going to go to this training workshop. I'm going to go do it. And it's something that's important to me, and I feel like I'm doing something. For me personally, I got to feel like I'm doing something. People sit around and complain and don't do anything about it. I just can't stand it. I don't want to hear it. You know, when people complain, what about this and this? I say, those are all legitimate complaints. Here's some solutions. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried this? And when they just go, no, it's like, I got no time for you. Here's the last paragraph. In the last couple of weeks, I started making non-work news-related posts again on social media. Frank Ocean lyrics, quips about Lady Gaga, a joke about my failed pen name. I collected some likes and hearts. Comics writer Ivan Brendon even responded to that list with a gif of Anne Hathaway crying and clapping. It was liberating. And no one got on my case for being an insensitive prick, not publicly at least. I think some people might have even gotten a moment of levity out of it. I'll likely continue this thread, but I'll always feel a little futile. Social media, Twitter especially, started as a way to bring people together. Then it brought out the best and worst in them. I've returned to it for now, but I'll never use it the way I used to, and maybe I shouldn't. That's a great example. I've done that because I realize my Twitter feed is all political, and I'll throw a joke or two out there, and it doesn't have to be a political joke, just a little silly joke. But I'm not going to just make it silly because the news is too difficult. I think what this article is talking about, as I interpret it, is it needs balance. But part of the balance is it was just too much silliness. It was just too much frivolity and gifs and nonsense. It can't just be 24/7. Anger and rage against the machine, because I've seen it be a dark place. A friend of mine's wife passed away and people made fun of her when Patton Oswalt's wife passed away on Twitter. Some people made jokes about it. And another good friend of mine, who's very good friends with Patton, was like, I don't want to go on Twitter anymore. It's a dark place. So yeah, that's awful. And again, we got to find a balance. We got to find, and as a comedian, I wrestle with this because part of me is like, God, I'm not joking as much. I'm just all this serious political talk. So, but I'm not gonna abandon this just to go back to the skits because this is too hard to deal with. I'm gonna sprinkle some jokes in there and have some fun. I just was on Aggressive Progressive, and that was really awesome. And we laughed, but then talked about some serious stuff. And afterwards, I turned to Stephanie Zambrano and I said, this is why I love this show. I love doing this. We laughed and made some great jokes, but then got serious. And that's what it should be. It should be both. And don't have too much of one or the other. And don't judge the other. You need a balance. You need laughter, but we can't fuck around. So thanks for watching and listening, you guys. I appreciate it. And thank you, Adam Martin, for submitting the article.